Howdy Ranch Hands, my name is Sarah Harris and I'm an Oklahoma 4-H STEMist, and you're watching day 3 of our Farm to Fork week, which is called the Proven Protein. For more information, please visit www.4h.okstate.edu. One of the most reminiscent moments of summertime is the smell of food cooking outside on the grill. The thought of a summertime meal is likely to make you excited as you crave the satisfactory taste of steaks, hamburgers, and hot dogs galore. Odds are that you've at least heard of My Plate, which is a guideline provided by the USDA for maintaining a healthy diet. My Plate suggests that your diet should consist of approximately 30% grains, 40% vegetables, 10% fruits, and 20% protein. One of the easiest ways to satisfy your protein requirements is to consume a healthy serving of meat. Meat derived from livestock animals is packed with amino acids, which help to keep your muscles strong. Protein is also found in virtually all parts of your body. Many cuts of beef, lamb, chicken, pork, and poultry come packed with the 9 essential amino acids suggested for a healthy diet. This makes meat a great source as a complete protein. Eating meat is an easy way to get all the protein you need. When consuming meat, the pink or red color of the cut of meat is where you get your protein from. There are also 3 different types of fat that are found in beef, pork, lamb, and chicken that can help make or break your steak, chop, or even your roast. Marbling is certainly the most important part of a steak. It gives the steak lots of flavor, makes it extra juicy, and prevents the steak from drying out in the cooking process. Looking at the surface of a steak, marbling is the intramuscular flecks of fat that are speckled across the cut. Marbling is a very good indicator of the quality of a cut of meat. Seam fat is the long stretch of stringy, tough, white or yellowish fat in the steak. It makes your steak very hard to eat and very chewy. When selecting your cuts of meat, you probably don't want a whole lot of extra fat. Exterior fat is the fat found along the outside of the steak. You really don't want a whole lot of exterior fat either on your steaks because the excess fat has no nutritional gain. As you review these different cuts of meat, look for the marbling, the seam fat, and the exterior fat that's on the cut of meat. Do you know any of these cuts? Have you ever had one of these steaks? Be sure to let us know on Microsoft Office, Forms, and Flipgrid. Howdy Ranch Hands, I hope you guys are ready to get cooking because right now we're going to make our very own Tbone steak. And you guys, the only supplies that you need for this is some sort of colored molding clay, a plate, and a plastic knife if you wish. So the very first part in making our Tbone steak is making a T out of our colored clay. So we're going to use the color blue to display this. So you start out by making a T. And while you're making this, your T, you're going to want to be about 1/2 inch thick. And you can make it as long as you'd like. So, do you guys know how the Tbone steak got its name? So, the T-bone that's in the Tbone steak is actually a vertebrae from the animal. And the vertebrae, which comes from the spine, is shaped like a letter T. So, for the first step, your T should look a little something like this. So, moving on to step 2, now it's time to start making your meat. So, using a red colored moldable clay, you're going to make a heart. And this heart doesn't have to be in a perfect heart shape, just get it somewhat of the like. Don't worry if your heart isn't infallible because once you have your heart-shaped colored clay, you're just going to rip it in half or cut it in half. So you start from where the heart, right here, and you're just going to cut it in half straight down the middle. So your muscle is going to end up looking a little something like this. So now you'll put this part on the right-hand side of your T-bone. And so like this, it's not going to fit perfectly. So all you need to do is just push it down a little bit until it fills in and touches. So our T-bone steak is about halfway done, but there is another half of this steak that needs to be done. So, get out your red colored clay again, and this time we're gonna go a little bigger. You're gonna wanna make a large rectangle, once again about 1/2 inch wide, and then as long as your T-bone steak is, as long as your T-bone itself is, about. So once again, don't worry if it's not a perfect rectangle because we're going to do a little bit of manipulation. So keep on stretching it. And as soon as you get your plate or your colored clay to about the length that you want it to be, go ahead and stick it on the left-hand side of your T-bone like so. And just like we did with the other half, press it in and mold it to the bone as well as you can. And you're going to want to bevel the very outside edge just a little bit until it touches into the bone of the steak. Just like so. So as we talked about in our lesson, the most important part of a steak is actually the marbling because it gives your steak the best flavor. So, I don't know about you guys, but I love a high choice or a prime steak because that's the highest quality grade that you can receive. So, now we are going to put our marbling, which is the intramuscular flecks of fat in the steak, into both sides of it. So we'll start out with our half heart and just pinch out little bitty pieces of white and put it in. You can add as much marbling or as little marbling as you would like, but this Friday on our Zoom call, if y'all will show us the pictures of your T-bones, we'll talk about how to judge them and why marbling is important. So keep on adding in some marbling. Until you think you have enough marbling in your steak to make it taste good. So marbling is the good type of fat, as we discussed, but there are two types of bad fat. So using your yellow colored clay, you're gonna make your seam fat and your exterior fat. So let's start out with our seam fat. Seam fat is the long, stringy part of fat that is found within the muscle. And this is the kind that's really tough and it makes your steak chewy. So I want for you to roll out a long string of your colored clay. Make it as thin or as thick as you'd like. And then in this top corner, over here on the side with your rectangle, you're going to place in just a little bit of seam fat. And it'll go from the top of the bone to about, 1/8 of the way down to look like so. And then everybody's least favorite type of fat on a steak, your exterior fat. So just like you did your seam fat, you're going to roll out a long piece of colored yellow clay and then fashion it to the exterior part of your rectangle. And it's okay if you don't get it the right length at first. Just go ahead and add some more. And here we have a finished product of a colored clay T-bone steak. Alright y'all, please give us some feedback on Microsoft Office Forms and show us your steak on Flipgrid. Also, please hold on to your special cut of meat because today on our Zoom call, we're going to judge our different cuts of meat and talk about the pros and cons of what you created. For more information, please go to www.4h.okstate.edu. Thanks, partners.